Hello, my friends. As you start to plan for your future, decide what the next chapter of your life is going to be, I wanted to share with you some great insight that I got out of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad and the Cashflow Quadrant. It proved to be very valuable to me. It made a difference. I actually made mega money because of the knowledge I got from this book. So today, what I want to talk to you about is the Cashflow Quadrant. So as you're deciding whether you want to stay in your profession, stay on your job, or stay in the business that you're in, whatever it is that you're doing, to earn money, I wanted to share this concept with you, and hopefully you'll get something out of it as I did. Well, according to Robert Kiyosaki, there are 4 areas in which you can make money, which I have highlighted here already. There's employment, there's self-employment, there's business ownership, and then there's being an investor. Well, okay, so employment. What are the pros and cons of employment? And let me just say from the beginning, I am not bashing any one of these fields. I'm just giving my description or the way that he described it. Employment. It's a great situation where you know that you're going to get a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or every month. It's stable. You know what to expect. You know that you're going to have a week, 2 weeks, a month vacation. Your hours are pretty much set. When the day is done, most of us can go home and not think about it until we show up the next day or the next shift for work. Those are the pros to employment. Well, some of the things that you also want to look at when you look at employment, it might be limited income. If you're on a job that caps out, let's say, for example, it's $120,000. That's the max you can make in that position with your education level, your skill level, then that's your limit. If you need to make beyond that, you're going to have to actually go out and get a second job or, find some other means of income. Then there's limited freedom. You can't decide, well, I'm going to take the next 2 weeks off and take a vacation. Unless you've planned vacation on that job, your freedom is limited. Whereas if you're in another situation, business ownership or an investor, you may have a little bit more time on your hand to do the things that you want to do. A lot of times people get into business ownership or in the investment world because they're trying to free up their time. And then the last item that I want to mention with employment is that you basically trade your time for dollars. If you only have 8 hours a day and you only make $40, $30 an hour, you can trade your 8 hours, and again, you're limited as to what you can do because you're going to run out of time. All right? Okay, let's talk about self-employment. Self-employment is when you are operating a business such as an electrician, a plumber, a dentist, even a doctor. If you're not on salary, then you're technically self-employed. That's great. The income can be awesome, but there's still some limits to income. Also, with self-employment, I go back to a verse I got out of the Bible, and as you guys know, I love connecting the Bible to business and income. There's actually a spot in the Bible that says, if a man doesn't work, a man shouldn't eat. Well, in this case with self-employment, if you don't work, you don't eat. There's no earnings. If you're doing oral surgeries or you're an electrician and you're going out, you're doing various jobs and the money is great, but you need to take time off or you're ill, there's no income coming in when you're not on the job. That's one of the negatives to self-employment. So zero work, zero income. All right, business ownership. The next area is business ownership. Business ownership is where I primarily make my money from, owning a business. One of the things that I like about business ownership is that if you have the right management team in place and you have the right vision set up for the business, you don't necessarily have to be there. The business can operate without your presence. So business ownership, it increases what you can make because you don't have to be limited to just one business. You can have multiple businesses. I've had friends that have owned several franchises. I own 2 childcare franchises. So the income can be unlimited. Now, however, one of the negatives to business ownerships is that to some degree, your presence is required. You have to be there at least to some degree to meet with your staff, to meet with your team, make sure they're going in the right direction. That is going to be necessary. That's not an everyday, it don't have to be every week. It all depends on the type of business you're in. Some businesses require more presence than others. What's another thing with business ownership? Business ownership relies very much on your knowledge. So you have to stay educated, I say educated up. You have to continually learn so that you can grow the business. If you don't develop, then your business is not going to develop. I attend a lot of conferences, a lot of workshops, and I bring what I learn back to my business. I try and implement, the latest technology, the latest industry, skill sets that need to be inside my business. That's what my wife and I do. So your knowledge is required. And then your leadership. You're the one steering the ship when it comes to your business. If you're not moving it in the right direction, it's going to go downhill. We've talked before about the story about Blockbuster. Blockbuster was offered mega money to get into the digital movie business, and they chose not to. Well, I think that was a leadership error because within another couple years, Blockbuster was out of business. So the leadership wasn't there, and the business became no more. So leadership, your leadership is important. All right, and the last area, which is most often the area where you can make the most money, it is unlimited. This is the area where the billionaires and the multi-millionaires are in. They're in the investor category. It is definitely unlimited. Unlimited income. And most often, being an investor, you're not required to be on the scene. Now, you do have to have some knowledge to make a decision as to what investments you're going to get into, but normally, for example, one of the investments, the most common investments that we're aware of is the stock market. You're investing in companies, you're investing in the CEOs, the board members of those companies. You're relying on their knowledge, their leadership. They've shown a history that they can produce income, and you're buying into that. It doesn't require your presence. So being an investor can be a great tool, and actually being an investor is something that you can do from any category. You don't have to wait to be solely an investor. You can be an employee, you can be a self-employed, you can be a business owner and still be an investor simply by, investing in, the stock market, getting a stockbroker or a brokerage firm and making some investments. You're an investor. Then there's real estate investments. There's a whole lot of investments, things, commodities, things that you can invest in that does not require your presence. But it is the number one means of making money without being present. All right. I hope this information was valuable to you. Again, this is not created by me. This is created from the book Cashflow Quadrant and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But if you like this information, please like, subscribe, and share. Be blessed.